this February 6th regular commission meeting to order. Connie, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Day?
Here.
Commissioner Robertson? Here. Commissioner Wesler?
Here. I would ask that everybody please rise, and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance and we'll prayer afterwards. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God, we would ask you to be with those who are hurting this morning and help them get themselves healed and back to feeling better. We would ask you to be with our troops who are overseas and hope for a safe return, and be grateful for the protection of our freedoms. And of course, we're grateful for all the elected officials and what they do for the citizens of the United States. And bless us here this morning, us three commissioners, as we strive to do the best for the county. In your name, amen. Okay. First of all, do we have any public comments? We'll have a zoning meeting later, and there'll be time for comments. Does anybody have any comments in the general good of the order? Okay, if not, I will take an approval of the minutes.
Move to note receipt, consider approval by signing the journalization and note receipt of the CD recordation, both as the official minutes of the February 4th, 2013 regular session meeting.
Second.
Okay, Connie, please call the roll.
Commissioner Day?
Yes.
Commissioner Robertson? Yes. Commissioner Wesler?
Yes. Okay, today we'll have financial considerations, correspondence and reports, travel requests. 9 o'clock, a first public hearing, building and zoning fee modification. 9:30, a public hearing, zoning cases, zoning case number 1333, David and Pamela FLORY. 10 o'clock, Jane Lightner Bridges, Bikes and Blues event. 10:30, first public hearing, FY13 CDBG. And 11:30, approximate recess for lunch. Do you have any additional items at this time, Connie?
Jane Lightner will not be in this morning.
Okay, well, okay, this on the building and zoning fee modification. And we've got Chad here. Chad, you came to the commissioners last year. Do you have a paper on what the schedule was? Well, I have it for everybody.
Well, it's stated on the resolution of intent. It should be in the file there. It should be the resolution.
All fees double if the applicant has already begun to locate, erect, construct, reconstruct, enlarge, change, maintain, or use any structure or land in violation of any regulation. Okay, Chad, you came to us and discussed this with us, so could you please go ahead and...
Yeah, this is something a little bit different than what I brought to you last year. Last year was looking to modify the actual rezoning fees.
Yeah.
This is something that is a little bit different. This is
they start building before getting them proper.
Correct. That has been a issue that's been ongoing. I'm sure it happened quite frequently before I took the position, but in the last 2 years it's seemed to escalate. People bringing in, building sheds, residential additions, garages. They just start building before they come get permits. And then it just costs my office between my clerk time to write up complaints. We need to go out and investigate the complaint. If no one's there to discuss it with, then no one returns phone calls, and I got to send out certified letters. And it's just time and money that we're wasting because people will not get the proper permission before they start.
And you say you found this out quite a bit the last couple of years.
Yes.
And are there any further violations such as building a structure too close to, they would have needed a variance to begin with?
Correct, and that's part of the thing too. You know, I have one case that I know off the top of my head that they started building an attachment to a business before they got prior approval. Once they started going through the process to get the approval, they got their variance and stuff, but to get the building permit for a commercial business, then they had to have a topo done and stuff. When the surveyor went out to do the topo, they actually found that the building was over the property line by 5 feet. So because they started building without permits and prior approval, they actually had to tear down part of their building to meet the setback that was granted to them. So we're just trying to eliminate situations like this.
Yeah, too. Have you done some research in other counties?
Yeah, I talked to Curtis Young up in Dark County and Clinton County, Walt Daniel down in Clinton County, the zoning director down there. Same scenario. Just whatever the application fee, like if it was for a variance, it's $150. If they needed a variance for setback issues, then that fee is now $300. So some neighboring counties and stuff like that, it's kind of the same thing, they just double the fee.
Chris, do you have any questions or comments?
When you talk to the adjacent or other counties, did they say that this kind of curtailed those practices?
The same type of scenario? Yeah. Yeah, people just start building without permission and stuff.
So once they doubled it, that slowed that down?
Yes.
Well, that was one of the questions. I want to know if you thought it would improve that situation. You said that all fees are doubled?
Well, just like for like either a zoning permit or a variance application or a...
So it would just be item specific. If they started building the structure and they needed say three permits, but they're only in violation of one, I mean, say they started building the framework or put down the foundation first and then they were over the variance, would that fee be doubled? Or say I need electricity, I haven't started on the electricity yet, would all of the fees be doubled?
Well, that for building and stuff, that's different. On the building side of it, yes, we already charge double for a violation of building without permits for the building fees themselves.
So you already have this in place
Yeah,
for some of them?
for the building side, just not for like getting variances and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. So this is just for if they start
This is just for the zoning side of
the
it.
zone.
Yeah, the building, if you already started adding an addition to your house or building a detached garage or something without permits, once you submit your plans for your building permits, whatever the rates were, it's doubled already.
Okay, so that's already in place.
Also consistent with other counties, like you're
Correct.
saying. It's
Yeah, everything's
consistent.
You know, everything I'm proposing is not just something I'm just pulling out of thin air. I've done,
Some research.
you know, it's consistent with people around us. And I'm not trying to single any one certain neighborhood out of it, but this is most frequently the biggest issue in here. They bring in their summer kitchens and stuff, and it's, I bet in the last 2 years I've had 8 or 9 of them, where they just come in, put up their summer kitchen, and, oh, well, I'll come get a variance or approval to put it on my lot. Well, you've already, when they come to the meeting, they've already got the building that's already sitting there. And that just, to me, that shouldn't fly like that.
Great. Any other comments before I open it up to it? If anybody would like to speak one way or the other on this issue, could you please come to the podium to be recognized? State your name.
Terry Willis. I guess I'm not clear. So the extra fee then is a deterrent for people starting without proper permits?
I wouldn't necessarily say deterrent. It's helping to cover the additional costs in my office for the office staff to write up the complaints and myself to go out and investigate the complaint.
I guess I don't understand what the additional fee would be then, because you have to go out and inspect it anyway.
Now, if they come in and they bring me documentation, if they come in to do a building permit, they tell me already how far it is off the property line. So if they meet setbacks, then I don't need to go out and look at it.
But when the finished product, you have to go out and inspect it anyway, don't you?
Not a zoning official, the building officials inspect.
I mean, somebody has to inspect it.
The building, that's the building side of it. The building official will do the building inspection. From a zoning aspect, I don't go out and inspect.
Well, my general comment is if we want to have growth in our county and be kind of user-friendly, this doesn't seem like a real friendly kind of proposition to be engaging in if we want to keep the county residents in a positive attitude about our county. It's more difficult to build a building or charge double fees.
I'm not necessarily saying, I'm not trying to deter any type of building. I'm just asking you need to come get approval first before you just start throwing stuff on the property. You shouldn't be able just to, on your property, just throw a 30 by 40 garage 2 foot off your property line without getting it checked out first.
Well, if I'm the property owner, it seems like I'm assuming that risk. So
Well,
you
that's
come out and say, Terry, it was supposed to be a foot over this way, you're going to have to tear it out. Well, then the expense is mine anyway. I don't see how that impacts a large expense in your department. I'm the one who has to incur the cost. I've made the mistake.
We're not trying to deter anybody, it's just trying to make them go by the rules that have been laid out. And if you come and want to build a structure and you go through the proper channels to get the proper permits, and he agrees with it and says you're fine, then you're fine. But if your neighbor comes and wants to build a building a foot off of the property line that you're going to, you used to be able to see the sunrise and now you're not going to be able to see the sun, well, you can come and say, well, hey, this is being built improperly, and Chad can go out and check what's going on. And I can tell you, Terry, we've raised fees here before, to in line where they should be, and we've always looked at other counties, and we're right in the mix with all the other counties. So,
Well, I don't think Preble County needs to be doing what everybody else does. I think we need to be unique. We're our county unto ourselves. It's nice to check and see what other people are doing, make sure we're not extending beyond that. But to be able to verify or validate that we increase fees because Dark County does it or Clinton County does it, I don't think it's a good reason why we should be doing it.
well, we look at what it takes to run the office, and when we find out that the fees aren't keeping up with what it takes to run the office, that's when we explore what other counties, where they're at, because we don't want to be higher than everybody else. And sometimes we don't want to be lower than anybody else if it takes more money to run that office.
Well, I heard him explain that fees were raised in these other places and that deterred them from this activity, so it sounds like a deterrent to me.
It deterred them from breaking the rules.
Well, that's what I hear him saying. That's what we're trying to do, raise the fees so people don't break the rules.
We're only
I'm just
raising
not sure
the
that's-
fee on the ones that break the rules.
I'm just not sure that's the road we need to be going down. Can I ask another question since I get the zoning person here? If our zoning laws or zoning regulations are so good, why do we have such an active appeals board? I used to go to the appeals board meeting because of an episode with my next door neighbor, so we kind of just watched how the appeals board operated for a while. And it was our experience that over 90% of the claims that came in there were approved by the appeals board. So maybe our zoning laws need to be looked at again anyway.
I would say my 3 most common appeals cases that I have is one for a hardship case for a single-wide mobile home on the property. That we allow you to have a single-wide
Temporary use.
temporary use permits to allow single-wide use for a family member needs is under doctor's care but can still live on their own.
Okay.
Something like that, that's one of the most common. Once the trailer is not needed for those reasons, the trailer has to be gone in 30 days.
Okay.
Number 2 would,
But
okay,
along that line, part of the problem is there's nobody to do a follow-up on that to see if it actually happened. That was what we discovered. The year we went to the zoning appeals board meetings, when these judgments are made, say, okay, you can do this, except when this scenario no longer exists, then that building needs to be removed. Nobody goes up and follows up on it. There's no follow-up, follow-through.
that may have been how it's done in the past, but it's not like that anymore.
I'd like to think it's because of some of our actions that's been corrected, because
I
that's
can
what
tell
happened
you-
with my next door neighbor.
I can tell you for one case of fact that there was a property down on just southeast of Gratis, 725. They no longer needed the trailer. It was gone less than a month. A couple up on 127 needed the trailer. They actually went down and bought it, moved it from that property up north. And I know for a fact it has gone from that property down by Gratis and is now up on 127.
One of the cases we heard was a hardship case. A person was supposedly mentally challenged or whatever, needed to be cared for by the parents. Well, this had gone on for like 25 or 30 years, and then the parents became invalids themselves, so they were asking for temporary use for the mentally challenged son now to take care of the parents. So wait a minute. They're supposed to be taking care of him. Now how can he now take care of the parents? So anyway, I'm glad to see that that's been corrected, because the appeals board, it seemed like everything that came through there was approved, and there was nothing but to skirt our current zoning laws. So I question, zoning laws need to be looked at again?
Another common case we have is for variances for setback issues.
Okay.
If someone's wanting to build, you know, you have a 25-foot side yard setback, they want to, for the best layout of their property or whatever, as long as it doesn't affect the neighborhood too much, they want to build it 20 foot off the property line. So that's, they need to get variance for that. And that's kind of what this is going along, is that if I want to build it 20 foot off the line, I just start building it before I got that variance.
Right.
And that's along with this is trying to imply here.
Thank you,
Okay.
Gary. Thank you.
All right.
Rob? Sure. Jeff?
Yeah. I appreciate the explanations I've heard so far, but just a clarification. There's only one fee going up then, the one that's going from 150 to 300?
Well, it'd be like if it's for, most of it would be just for a variance is what it's going to be.
But most of them, but are there any other exceptions that would have a cost where other fees are going to double? I mean, if somebody has in one instance, okay, you have one property owner, is there any other things out there that's going, other than this one going from 150 to 300, which seems a little hard to believe it's cost to double that quickly in a year. But are they going to face any other doubling in the cost on the same project?
Other than just building fees.
And
But that's already something that's already in place.
already in place. Now, when you were in here January 2nd, you also mentioned year one. And I understand, I've heard this complaints on year one mentioned in this chamber many times. But on the 16th, you weren't in here, but Katie Worthington was. She stated, now this cannot be done to punish a person for not doing it. I don't know whether it's a penalty or we're calling it a deterrent. It seems to be more of a penalty. I understand your issue with it, obviously. You mentioned previously that there are some people that come in and say they didn't know, and that sometimes when the same person's coming back and repeatedly,
Right.
I understand your frustration, but there are probably some people out there that just start these things out of ignorance or whatever, and they're going to face a doubling of the cost. A fee that was $150, now it's going to be $300. It just seems like a rather large increase for something that the county is probably going to be collecting property tax on in the future anyhow. We're paying for a flyover of a 6 to 12 inch resolution or something like that, so I imagine we're paying somebody to catch these type of things. So it's not like it's going to go on for a very long time. That's my only concern on this, other than the fact that, you know, we're not going up a little to cover some paperwork, we're doubling the fee. And I know you've doubled other fees. There probably should have been some people in here on there that they didn't like it. But it just seems a little hard to believe that in a year's time, all of a sudden we're facing a doubling in cost. And I agree with Terry, just because another county is doing it, doesn't mean that we need to jump off the cliff with them. That's where I stand. I understand your frustration on going out to the same people, if that's the way I got it. I get that in spades, but just to double it for everybody as a penalty, if they're not aware of it, I don't see where it's a deterrent. So you're just doubling the fee on it. And you're going to collect property tax on a property anyhow. At some point, I mean, you know, a lot of people complain about property taxes, and they're going to probably claim complaining more when that new flyover happens. You're going to catch a lot of this stuff at some point, more and more often, I would think. So there's going to be, it's not like the county's losing a bunch of money. We're still going to be collecting taxes off that property at some point, right? But David, you've been here longest. If somebody puts up something illegally and the county catches it, they're going to have to start paying taxes on it, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, if they put it over the property line, the cost, like Terry said, is there. It's stupid, and I understand that, but they're going to probably be kicking themselves big time anyhow. I don't want to have to say, but it seems to me we're going to catch the property tax. Somebody's going to be putting money off of it. You know, is there some way you can just, if it's a repeat offender, as you described on the second, you catch these people instead of just a blanket type thing? Isn't there some type of penalty other than doubling the fees on everybody when some of them may not be aware of this?
I'd have to look into that a little bit further on that.
I understand your frustration, I really do. But, you know, you're doubling fees. Hey, thanks a lot.
Jeff. Do you have any first comments?
I didn't have, you mentioned, you were listing off some of the costs to the department. Could you list those again? I kind of wanted to take some notes.
List as far as,
What it costs, what extra it costs your department if someone starts their project without the blessing of the county?
to get like a variance,
Yes.
a variance right now is $150.
Okay, and so what administrative costs justify that extra $150 that you have to do if they forget, or don't know, or if they blatantly just
Well,
do
most of the
it?
time, most often than not, it turns into a half-hour to 45-minute discussion with a neighbor who's calling in to complain about the issue.
Okay, so you get a phone call.
This isn't just someone coming in and just saying, it's over with. It's a disgruntled neighbor that calls in, and those don't turn into a 2-minute phone call just saying, hey, you need to look into my neighbor here.
Okay, so you get a phone call at your office.
Right.
All right, so that's your
My clerk
time.
normally type, either myself or my clerk type up a formal complaint form.
Okay,
Then I'll go out and investigate it, to look into it to see if their complaint is valid.
okay.
More times than often than not, there's no one home during the day during these, so.
So you might have some mail, certified
Then, you know,
mail.
then after that, then it's certified mail for that.
Certified mail comes,
If
Then
somebody comes in and goes through the proper channels, the cost is, the variance is approximately $150. But if they don't, and they go ahead and start doing it on their own, it's $300.
Right.
So I'm not sure if I heard Jeff correctly, if he said to build raise it on everybody. It's not to be raised on everybody. It's just the violators.
You're absolutely right. I did not mean to say anybody starting any project, but I think on the second, he alluded to the fact that there were comments by people they didn't know. Now, I am sure whether they, didn't know or had been in there multiple times and said they didn't know, and he knows full well that he's been through the same type of thing with the same person in the same area before, that they do know. There's a difference between those that are repeat offenders and somebody just comes in and probably really didn't know. I just don't see where that fee, these fees were reviewed last January, they haven't been up, since 2006, a doubling of the cost in that period of time. I understand the frustration with having to put up with it, but that's why we have government, everything's not always going to run smoothly and freely, and every time we get upset with it, doesn't mean we double the fees. And as soon as it be a deterrent, if the person didn't know, truly didn't know, they're just going to get hit with a doubling of the fee because they didn't know. Correct me. When you were here in the second, your objection was basically because of repeat offenders. That's the way it sounded. Is that correct?
It's possible. I mean, I don't recall exactly what I said.
Well, I have it here.
That's fine.
And you mentioned your run. The people that come in, I know in building fees, you're doubling them if they're in violation already. But this is something that somebody started, you mentioned a shed. somebody puts up a simple shed, didn't get a variance for it, or, and then they're slapped with doubling the cost, that just seems a little bit much. Now, a 40 by 80 building, yeah, okay, you know, but it just seems to me that you're jumping from a shed to a rather large building. That's quite an increase for somebody to think, say, you know, I'm gonna put up something, I'm out here in the woods, I'm gonna put up this shed to stick my tractor in, and all of a sudden he's got a $300 fee instead of a $150 fee that he didn't know about in the first place.
But then, should I also tell the building officials that they shouldn't charge a double for their time and stuff built in the building permits? Just because they know they needed permits before they build it?
You know, when you get into that, you're absolutely right, but we're using the justification that nobody showed up the first time you double fees on something else, the double fees on this particular project. Should the public have been more informed if they had known better? I'm sure it was properly advertised. But to double all fees based on the fact that you doubled in the building side, just because you did it there, I just don't see that. You know, it doesn't make sense to me. I think there probably should have been more objection on the doubling, but there wasn't. So that doesn't mean I'm saying not show up and say, you know, somebody sticks a shed in, should they be paying $300 out in the country because you guys picked it up on your flyover? I don't think so. Charge them $150. What's the problem there? You are the one that mentioned the shed in particular. That's why I mentioned the shed. Now, that's a bit different than a 40 by 80 building.
Well, I agree.
But, and I understand repeat offenders, and this is the only way to address that, that's one thing, but it seems to me should be some other way of getting a repeat offender instead of nailing some guy that lives out in the country with 40 acres and builds a shed out in the woods that's been there and they can finally catch it on a flyover.
No, the thing is that, you know, if you bring up the 40 acres, if your property is zoned agriculture, and it's an agricultural building, you can put it right on the property line.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine there.
Okay, and I should have known that. But, okay, say somebody was say a shed out in their backyard. Nobody ever says anything. The property catches it. You know, you mentioned shed, we're going from 150 to 300. They know I have $300 in the darn thing. That just seems a bit much. Isn't there some other way to catch repeat offenders and have them pay this cost?
I just wanted to know, do you have a lot of this that happens in your run? Have you tried to work with the management out there to? Okay,
It's been tried multiple times.
Okay, because I mean, I could see.
So it's basically a deer run tax is what it's coming down to. It sure sounds like.
No, I've had a handful of cases just in 2 years
now,
that's been outside of the
deer run's been mentioned, and I get your frustration on it. But the thing is, we're doubling a fee from what was reviewed last year. You said this one wasn't brought up last year, but and from 2006 to 2013, and we're just beginning 2013 when that was last year. I don't think those costs have gone up $150. I really don't, on any of them. Now, there needs to be some way to catch the repeat offenders. I don't think they could.
Okay, well, thank you, Jeff.
Sure.
Any other comments? Anybody else wishing to speak on this?
Has it been looked at like a graduated fee? If somebody's a first-time offender, $25 additional fee. And you can put that on administrative fees for correcting the situation. Second offender, $50. Third time, $150. Something like that, maybe. I can appreciate you have additional costs and frustration and repeat visits and things like that. Maybe I didn't realize that in the beginning. So now I'm beginning to see where you're coming from. But I'm like Jeff, $150 right off the bat seems a little steep. But maybe if you graduated the not fines, but
Not fine.
additional fees, maybe that's more in line.
But Terry, there's certain costs that go along with this. I mean, if you're talking about a graduated fee on the size of the building, you can talk about a graduated fee from how far away from the courthouse here that the building's going to be. So I think we're just trying to keep it simple as possible, and I don't really think this is out of line. And if they would only come in and go through the proper channels, as almost everybody knows how and what to do.
Well, like Jeff said, if you're putting up a little simple shed, a $500 or $600 shed, you get a $150 fee to begin with. You're thinking, well, I'm just putting up a shed. I don't think I have to get a building permit for that. So I put up my shed, and then the guy comes on and says, oh, well, you can't do that. And then we're going to slap another $150 on top of that and pay a $300 fee for a $500 building.
And some people do not know. I mean, they are not blatantly
Well, sure.
breaking the rules, they just don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I'm a
I
nurse,
can
I'm
use
not an
myself-
engineer, I don't know.
I can use myself as an example. We bought a house here in Eaton. We had all this work we were gonna do to it. My husband, thankfully, is in construction and says, oh, we gotta go get permits. And I'm going, what permits do we need? This is our house, we're, fixing up, and we had to have all kinds of permits. I did not know. So, but he did. There are people who legitimately do not know and aren't breaking the rules on purpose. There are some people who are breaking the rules on purpose, I'll give you that. But
I agree. Thanks, Eric. Rod?
Yeah, after hearing the discussion, I hear what they're saying, but there's a lot of, I don't think this is a penalty, I think it's recovering cost. It's a business, strategy of trying to say, hey, you've increased our cost of doing business. Just like when you go to the license bureau, if you're a day late paying your license, they charge you $25. You know what, I did that one time. I pay for my license on time now. Some people only do it once. As far as repeat offenders, it's going to have to be a large property if you're doing 2 or 3 additions. I think the fees are in line with the price of fuel and time, and I think we need to deter people. It's not a penalty, but we do need to deter people from doing this.
The
and
assistant
doing
prosecutor referred to it.
Justin, would you please come up to get on tape?
Sure. She referred to it as, we can't call this a penalty. When the discussion from the 2nd and the 16th reflected as being a penalty. We're calling it a deterrent. Now we're splicing words here, it's a penalty. Now there are costs, I'll grant you that, but he has costs originally on the first time. This is still going to be that person's first time. So if they need a variant or a $150 fee on that shed the first time, and he finds out about it, there's still a thing. Now granted, you mentioned a phone call or whatever, but there's people that come in there that have nothing to do with this, just with questions that they're spending time on. That's why we have elected officials, that's why we have all these people working in this courthouse to answer those questions. The fee was $150 when this stuff was reviewed 1 year ago in January. The last time they raised it was 2006. I don't think those costs have gone up, doubled in 7 years, let alone 1 year. If the idea is we got to raise our costs because we're talking to people on the phone, well, they're going to be talking to people on the phone the first time they come in. It's still going to be the first time. Now, this is a deer run tax. There's no doubt in my mind. They keep coming up here about the deer run. I wish there was a fine. And I grant you it's only $150, but if it's a $500 shed and we're $300, yeah, it's a deterrent. They probably won't do it again, but there's still people out there who don't know it, and we're not. It's not very friendly to them, and that's my.
Ted, what's the percentage of small sheds, to put your lawnmower in versus, say, new construction versus, putting in concrete versus,
I'd say it's pretty small.
So we're looking at the bigger picture as far as larger construction. Okay.
Like I said earlier, the property that really made this an issue to me was a property out here that, it's a car lot on 35 that they decided to add on a 2-bay garage onto the back of the property, and they came to my zoning appeals meeting, and the contractor and the property owner but kept saying, oh, we didn't know, and
Well, and I think it comes back to Denise, you're correct. I mean, we do need to educate, but, it's like me, if I'm going 75 and 55 and I get pulled over and tell the cop I don't know,
Oh.
It's.
A contractor saying, I don't know, that's
Yeah.
crap.
and that's how I
Me
felt
as a
about it.
first private person not knowing and not being in construction, that's one thing. But a contractor would know that.
But, that case, I spent going on probably 3 weeks off and on, arguing with these people about what needed to be done, and just having to go out and visit 2 or 3 times.
It's very easy to say I don't know.
Yes.
And I think that's it.
Thanks, Rod. Okay, our next public hearing will be the 13th day of February at 10 o'clock a.m. So, thanks, Chad. This closes the public hearing at this time. Thank you for all your comments.
You need to say
Oh, yeah, you're still here.
you can't get rid of it just yet.
Just get ready, you
I'm gonna put it up here, Chad. Chad. Put it up here.
Yeah.
How we doing? Good. Good, good.
How did I say it? Good, take care, son.
How you doing? Good. Shake your hands, guys.
Steve, how are you doing? Just fine. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Hey, didn't mean to take up so much of your time.
Hey, Ellen.
No, I'm David.
Morning.
That's why you execute people.
You know, lights off so you can see a little bit
Yes.
better.
Are you just about ready to start?
As soon as that thing's warmed up, I'm ready.
Okay. By the time we get the other part, we should be ready to go. Okay, we're here today for case number 1333, David and Pamela FLORY. Did everybody get a chance to sign in out there? Okay, great. If you all would, you'll be given an opportunity later to come up and speak at the podium and ask any questions you wish. Everybody okay? In the meantime, though, I will have the clerk give you the oath for the meeting. So, Sarah?
If you'll stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony you may give today is the truth and nothing but the truth to the best of your knowledge? If so, answer I do.
I do. You have taken an oath or an affirmation to tell only the truth in this proceeding. You are hereby advised that knowingly making a false statement under oath or affirmation in an official proceeding can constitute a violation of Ohio criminal law. If the statement is made with the purpose of misleading a public official in performing the official's function, such behavior could subject the maker of the statement to criminal prosecution for falsification, a misdemeanor of the first degree punishable by a sentence of 6 months in jail or a fine of up to $1,000. Knowingly making false statements under oath or affirmation in an official proceeding when the statement is material may also subject the maker of the statement to criminal prosecution for the offense of perjury, a felony of the third degree, punishable by a sentence of up to 5 years in prison and a fine of $10,000. Okay, today we're here to hear case number 1333. Stephen A. Hoke, agent for David and Pamela FLORY, submitted an application to have approximately 6.889 acres exclusive of road right-of-way, if any, reclassified from agricultural to special use provision. The area of land sought to be reclassified contains approximately 450 feet frontage along the south side of Kimmel Road, approximately 2,191.3 feet west of Monroe Central Road, Monroe Township, Section 16, Preble County, Ohio. The proposed land use will be the creation of a new 7.059 acre parcel, which will support the development of a proposed church structure and parking facilities to accommodate approximately 100 to 150 vehicles, along with on-site utilities. The remaining 100.941 acres will continue to be cultivated and will retain its agricultural zoning classification. Was Katie going to come today or not?
I do not know. I haven't really spoke to her too much in the last couple weeks.
Okay, well, I guess if we need her, we'll know where
Yeah.
we should go play. Okay,
I
Steve.
can't imagine needing her today.
I'm sorry.
I can't imagine needing her today.
Good morning. I would rather face you than the audience, if you don't mind. Mr. Chairman, my name is Stephen Pope, and I'm here today on behalf of David and Pamela FLORY. Mr. Chairman, Mr. and Mrs. FLORY would like to donate to their church approximately 7.059 acres of their land to be converted to a use for a church. And that area would be approximately located right here, Mr. Chairman, at the northwest corner of their existing 108-acre parcel. That's located along the south side of Kimmel Road, just west of Monroe Central Road, and east of the hamlet of Hamburg. Gosh. Forgot all about that. It's a poor little town. East of Hamburg. Mr. Chairman, this is the township house of Monroe Township in the cemetery. And the 7 acres would be located approximately right in here. The site plan that I have shown on my drawing is just a representation of what I thought that site would support based upon other structures and other uses in the county on similar sized parcels. There would obviously be a church structure with a parking lot size to handle approximately 100 and some cars. The site would require a detention facility, as I have shown, on-site sanitary, and a well. The final location of those were yet to be determined by their site engineer. The one thing that we do have nailed down is the driveway location that I have shown on my drawing. And I did meet with a representative of the county engineer's office, and he did give us preliminary approval for the location of that driveway. I would not suspect that driveway location to change. There's good sight distance to the east and to the west, and based upon my conversations with the building committee, they felt like that would be the best location for that. In addition to that, Mr. Chairman, I did speak with the property owner to the west. That would be Mr. and Mrs. Murphy. They could not be here, but they did give me permission. I specifically asked them if I could speak on their behalf. And Mrs. Murphy did say that was fine, that they have no objections to the reclassification of the 7 acres. They had some questions about the use and the size of the building and some things like that, but she said finally that she had no objections to it, but if it was necessary, that she would offer a written approval, but so far it has not been necessary. On this tract of land, there are no other structures except for a barn and some grain bins. There used to be a house located in this location. The house has been removed for several years. Mr. Chairman, I don't know how much you want me to go into the discussions that we've had with the Planning Commission and with the Zoning Board. I think if you had an opportunity to read the minutes, there was some discussion about the amount of traffic on Kimmel Road, and I felt like we addressed that with the other 2 boards. I did personally meet with the Monroe Township trustees back in December to give them a presentation as I'm giving to you today, and what the intended use of that property would be and the amount of traffic that would be on Kimmel Road. Their biggest concern at that time was the amount of traffic on Stevens Road. That seems to be a targeted road that they have in their plans to upgrade. There seems to be a lot of traffic on Stevens Road, and it's their plans that they would like to upgrade that road in the future. And they felt like that putting a church here on Kimmel Road would not have any bad effects on the road. In fact, they felt like it would take some traffic off of Stevens Road. So they were in agreement with this site and with the proposed use. And the last 2 meetings, there has not been any objections from the township trustees. One other thing I want to point out, Mr. Chairman, is that if this is approved, the operation of a church and the structure on that 7 acres is not a permitted use under the special use provision code. We did, however, file for a conditional use permit with the Board of Zoning Appeals in January, and we were successful in getting that conditional use permit, and that is conditioned upon approval today. So I just wanted to let you know that if this is approved, we have been approved for the use of a church and a religious structure on that site. Other than that, Mr. Chairman, those are the basic facts. I am here today with Mr. FLORY, the owner of the property, and also with me today are members of the church building committee. If you would have any questions about the church operation, more specifically, more detailed information about their operation and so forth, they would be happy to address those. And I'd be happy to address or get into more detail if you felt it was necessary about the traffic and the property itself. There's no other improvements proposed on the remaining ground. So with that, Mr. Chairman, those are the basic facts as I understand them. If you or the board would have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer.
One of the discussions also had to do with septic, but that will all be cleared through the health department, that approved through the health department, so.
That is correct.
And other than that, yeah, I read about the road. In fact, I was out there this morning. I turned around and right near that ditch right line right there. So, yeah, I saw exactly where it was at. And it seems to me like it's a very generous donation by, who did you say? David. Okay. I think it's very generous of them to even do that, so.
Well, their church is looking for a new site, and Mr. FLORY has graciously taken up that challenge to give them this property. If you noticed on my drawing, there is a little finger that kind of hangs down there to the southwest of the 7 acres. When we met out there with the church building committee, we kind of walked this area here. It looks like a natural place for a future cemetery. Now, whether or not they decide to put a cemetery in there, that remains to be seen, but there is a knob right in here, and it's well drained. And they thought, well, if we're going to go through the rezoning of this tract, let's go ahead and include that at this time. If we decide to put a cemetery there, that would be a great place for it. And that's why we put that little 1 acre finger hanging down there right now.
Okay, Chris, do you have any questions? No. Okay, well, thanks a lot, Steve. Is there anyone from the audience wishing to speak for this application? Gary?
Gary Garber, I'm on the building committee for the church, and we want to appreciate Steve's comments. He covered it very well, and covered everything as far as I know. So just wanted to voice approval for what Steve has already shared. Also appreciation for Dave for the donation. As we looked at this site along with 5 other sites that our committee considered, this one was clearly the best for traffic and away from other uses in the county that would conflict, such as other churches like on Foose Road, for instance. And then our fellowship is pretty geared towards staying small and intimate. We're not geared for any of this mega church thing or anything like that. So if we would grow significantly, I think there would be the mindset would be to establish another congregation somewhere. So that's give you a little background on that. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Anyone else wishing to speak for? Is there anyone wishing to speak against this application? Okay, if not, I will remind the commissioners that the Planning Commission approved it it was 12/20, December 20th, 6-2. It was approved by the zoning commission on 4-0 on January 3rd. So that was a 4-0 vote. The appeals case was approved on January 22nd. So with that, any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve case 1333 under section 1103.01 and object to 201.01.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Sarah, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Day?
Yes.
Commissioner Robertson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wesler?
Yes. So we'd like to thank everybody for coming in. I doubt, like you said, I doubt it's going to happen in this case, but it is referendable within 30 days. So Chad, you'll meet with them after 30 days, or they can come in and...
Yeah, you just have 30-day waiting period. After 30 days, then you have the Mylar recorded. And then after that, you're ready to have a survey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, how you been? See you're nice and tan. Everybody can figure it out.
Yeah, take care of it, Mr. Booth.
Yes, sir. Never heard that.
Always seem to.
I know you do.